Hello, everyone. A big welcome to a Reactor special, the K8SUG Singapore 19th Meetup. So, this meetup is in person at the Microsoft office happening in less than 30 minutes away. But if you're watching this from the comforts of your home and office today, you are in for a good deal. So, apart from our today's meetup session, which will be featuring live, we are super honored and thrilled to be given a chance to speak with our K8SUG community leaders, Ritesh and Fazil. So you get a chance to ask all your burning questions with them on the chat before the meetup starts. This is all exclusive for you watching this live. So, right, without further ado, let me invite our friends up, Fazil and Ritesh, up onto the screen.
Hi.
Hello, both of you. It's great
Hi,
to have.
Susan.
Suzanne. Hi,
It's great
team.
to have. Yep, it's great to have both of you today. Thank you for granting us at the Reactor an opportunity to speak with you. So, Fazil and Ritesh are both community leaders of K8SUG. I'm sure some of you all have seen them before. They're familiar faces. So, with a great wealth of experience and passion for the community. So, I'll get Fazil, you to introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Fazil Fahmi. So I am one of the community organizer for Kubernetes User Group Singapore. So I work as a DevOps senior engineer for one of the well-known bank in Singapore.
Right. And Ritesh, what about you?
Yeah, hi. Hi, all. Thank you, Susan, for giving us an opportunity to be on this call and share our experiences with, our peers. My name is Ritesh. I am currently working with SPH as Senior Staff Engineer for Platform Engineering Cloud. And I'm also one of the community organizer for K8SUG Singapore. And yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay. So you are all talking about very formal stuff. Let's have some fun. I'm gonna ask like 3 easy questions. So I'll start with Fazil first. What is the most used application on your mobile phone?
Obviously, it's WhatsApp.
Oh, is it obvious? It may not be obvious. Some people like Instagram. Okay. Um,
Okay.
okay, that's nice. Ritesh, yourself?
LinkedIn.
Oh wow. Okay, that's very formal. Okay, then next question. Maybe I'll start with Ritesh then. What's your favorite superhero?
Captain America.
Oh, okay. And Fadil?
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Okay, that I'm aligned. I like Iron Man. Okay, so
Oh,
next a
is it?
super. Yeah. Okay, Fadil, a superhero you would love to have.
Superhero love to have.
Superpower. Sorry.
Superpower. Okay.
Yes.
If I can time travel, so I can go back to my childhood and start the life again.
Okay. Wow. That's deep. Okay, we'll leave this conversation to another day. Um, Ritesh, what about yourself?
About me, I would like to have a superpower to eat anything and don't get fat.
I
So you
think
are
that
doing it right now, also, Ritesh, right?
Yeah, but I'm eventually gaining weight, so I want a superpower wherein I don't think about the calories and all. I can just eat, enjoy, and I don't get fat. So if I have that superpower, would be really great.
I think that's a superpower that all of us want to have. Come on, like with the food around, right? Yeah. Okay, so there you go, virtual audience. The exclusive interview is now over. All right, I'm just joking, guys. Okay, cheer up. Yep. Okay, so now let's talk about serious stuff. Okay, so I think both of you are being community leaders of K8SUG. Maybe I'll ask exclusive interview for the audience who decide to get started.
Yeah, so we actually, myself, like I am very passionate about Kubernetes. That's one thing. And from when I started my career, so I used to volunteer for these kind of events, organizing events, meetups like that. So this is one big opportunity I got when I started my career in Singapore. So and I can engage with different people, with the tech leads, everyone in the industry. So basically we are meeting different people from the industry, mainly from Singapore. Singapore is a hub for this tech giants, right? So likewise we now engage with Microsoft, so we talk to different people. So that's one main advantage, and that motivates me to continue to support and build the community.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that basically you first love the technology a lot, And then also because it gives you opportunity to meet the people, like to network as well, to share your passion. I think that's quite a big thing, right? Okay, so maybe my next question to Ritesh is like, what does it mean to be a community leader?
Ah, to be a community leader, it means like everybody thinks that being a community leader is a cool because you organize events, you are in a limelight, everybody knows you, but it's not actually true. There is a lot of thing that goes in the back end, like scheduling the meetup, coordinating with the sponsors, talking with our different stakeholder, making sure the event goes well, getting coordination with the with the speakers, making sure on the day we have enough volunteers. If not, then we have to do it. So it's like being a community leader is it feels good, but yeah, it comes with a lot of responsibilities. So for me, yeah, that's what it is, being a community leader.
Right. Also, it feels like it's like holding a second job, right? Technically, because you're also like organizing events, you're making sure that the community is well taken care of, right?
Yes, it's like a second job, but yeah, we cannot do second job in Singapore.
Yeah, we
There
won't
is a
tell.
lot of commitment we have to do for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of commitment goes into it. Means like we have seen, like for both of us, either one of us has to be available every month for the meetup, and we have to make
Mm.
sure we back up each other, and the planning and the kind of thing that goes into it, it's really sometimes it's exhausting, but yeah,
Right.
it all depends on how much we love it to do it for the community,
Yep.
and that's what drives our passion towards it.
Mm. That's very inspiring. How long have you been doing this?
For me, I have been doing this for last 1.5 year. But for last 1 year, I have started actively getting into it. I've dreamt of this since my career, early life career, when I used to see people doing the technical talk and they used to go in the community, do the community sessions. I was very much pumped up at that time to do it, but did not get an opportunity. But yeah, eventually here in Singapore, I got this opportunity and I grabbed it, and I think I'm doing very good in it.
That's nice. And Fazil, yourself, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I also started this, I mean, organizing meetups and all from the beginning when I started my career. So, and this Kubernetes user group I joined like almost a year back. So actively, I think started managing this user group like around maybe 8 months. So I think we have achieved a lot from this. Main
Mm.
thing is this is the most active Kubernetes user group in Singapore, and we have around 3,000 members, and we manage to do meetups every month. Some months we do two, at least two meetups because of the demands and because a lot of demands coming into us from different counterparts or maybe different project
Mm.
people coming and asking to engage with us. So that's how it is.
It's a lot. It's quite intense. Yeah, I can understand. But okay, maybe Ritesh, you can tell me like, I mean, since we're talking about like how committed, like how much work there is, let's talk about. I mean, before we scare others, right? Like everybody don't want to be a community leader after this watching this thing. So like maybe let's talk about the positive side, right? How has being a community leader helped you in your growth and your career?
Yeah, I can say for me, especially the being a community leader has helped me in various way. One is it has removed my fear of interacting with different people of different organization. That is one thing. It removes the fear. Second, I wanted to do community speaking, and also this is where I also got an opportunity being an organizer to go ahead and speak in the public. And also in my organization now, when we do such kind of thing, people do respect you, they come to you, they talk to you, they want to know more about you, they would like to know how you manage such kind of thing. Means like you have a regular job, you are doing this
Mm.
event, and every time sometimes people they come up and say, guys, how you guys manage it? Means like every month you have one meetup, sometimes you have two meetup, you guys don't work, or how do you manage it? So that is something that gives us more motivation that yeah, we are doing something impactful over here.
Nice. Okay, and I'm gonna ask Fazil, like, because from what I hear from Ritesh, right, it sounds like almost like, oh, it helped you become a better social butterfly. I mean, for you to like meet people, be an extrovert. So, I mean, for Fazil, let me ask you, like, what do you think are the key characteristics or traits or skills that you need to have to be a community leader?
First thing I can say is commitment. So because we do a full time job, so this is like something, as you said, it's a second job. So we have to have commitment, and we have to always be connected with people. And other thing is like we should know how to speak to people, like public speaking, or
Mm,
maybe speaking to sometimes we need sponsors, or we how we engage with sponsors, or how we find speakers to present in our meetups, and the managing time. There are so many things. So I think I'm like gaining these skills, like improving these skills throughout these managing these meetups. So those things actually needed. And if someone think, okay, I don't have much time, because everyone is having the same time, right? So I'm
mm.
it's 24 hours, right? Everyone says, so we should be
Yeah.
able to manage the time. That's the one key thing, and the commitment are what I can say.
Sure. I agree. Like I think a lot of time people say like, oh, I don't have time, but it all boils down to priorities and how much you want it, right? So I think that's very well
Yes.
said.
True.
Okay, now shifting the gears a little, I think we have been talking about like community leaders. I think to help our audience here today who are viewing it from home, let's talk about like the trends and like what's happening in the space of DevOps. Maybe Ritesh, I'll ask you, everything is about AI these days, right? We probably use the word AI, ChatGPT, more than any word we say in a day, right? We hear it so much. So how does AI actually impact DevOps?
So, yeah, the very first thing I would like to inform everyone that AI is not going to steal anyone's job, okay? Rather, it is going to make their job easy. And how?
Yep.
Let me tell you. Now, since I'm from an infrastructure background, I'm currently working on coding like creating Terraform codes and then deploying the Terraform infrastructure, using GitHub, pushing it to the cloud and all those things. Sometimes I have difficulties in understanding how does this work? What does this code do? So what I do, I go to my friend ChatGPT. I paste and I tell ChatGPT that you are my instructor and I will paste that I need help to understand this particular code. ChatGPT will tell me what this code does, and it also suggests me what improvement need to be done into it. And accordingly, I take that code, I put it there, I make the changes, and I update it. And it has helped me a lot. So to everyone, don't be afraid of AI. It's going to make your job easy, but it's not going to take over your job.
Mm. Yeah, well said. Um, and okay, maybe to Fadil, right? Do you know some of the known tools that will help like a DevOps person?
Some of known tools. Yeah, so it depends on the, tech stack will be depend on the requirement of the project. So I can't say, okay, a DevOps engineer should know these tools. It doesn't like that. So for example, let's say the Kubernetes have different flavors, right? So talk about the vanilla Kubernetes, and different cloud vendors providing offering the Kubernetes as service, like for example Azure Kubernetes. So likewise, like DevOps engineer should know the concept. It doesn't matter whether which tool is using, which
Mm,
technology, or which
mm,
language, or anything like that. So I what I can say is like he should know the concept all over, like when it comes to the CI/CD, containerization, cloud. If you know the concept, so he don't need to rely on any tool. So he can, he can smart in a smart way. He can switch into the different tools, depend on the requirement, or maybe any other factors based on how the tools being selected.
right, sure. Well said. Okay, so maybe last question. Fazil can help me with this. What can our viewers expect to hear from our session later?
Yeah, today we have like three exciting topics. One main topic will be Azure Kubernetes Service. I think very first time we are going to discuss about Azure Kubernetes Service. That will be conducted by Mr. Habeeb. I think that will be a really important topic for today. Another exciting topic is the auto scaling application, auto scaling based on KEDA, a tool called KEDA. So Mr. Nilesh, one of the MVP, so he will be doing that topics. And last topic, Ritesh, he will do a hands-on with AKS and Terraform. So I hope this will be all these topics will be very exciting, and there's something to learn by our community.
Right, great stuff, Ritesh and Fazil. I think this has been very helpful, like for us to learn about the community, the whole DevOps space, and and it gives a very good introduction to what we can expect later. So with that, we conclude our exclusive interview. For the audience watching this, you can drop your questions and we'll try to answer them later. In the meantime, let's head over to the Meetup Live at Microsoft Singapore.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you
all. Thank you for tuning
Thank you
in.
so much.
Have a good day. See you in the live.
See you.
See you.
I hope you guys enjoyed the interview, something about us. And today, we are really very much honored that it's the first time we are doing this Microsoft. We really give Microsoft is the first time, and we have a very good lineup. So we have Habeeb from Microsoft, business program manager, who will be sharing with us about Azure Kubernetes services. Then we will have Mr. Nilesh Gule, who is Microsoft MVP for Azure and containers. He will be sharing about Kubernetes and Kubernetes KEDA. Then the last one would be myself. I will be showing a demo on Terraform and KEDA. So before we move on to that, I would like to talk about K8SUG. So me and Mohamed, we are the organizer of K8SUG, that is Kubernetes Singapore. We have presence in 3 countries. We are in Melbourne, Australia. We also have in Canada and Singapore. So me and Mohamed, we are the main organizers. We have volunteers. Habeeb is a volunteer who helps us, and we have one more volunteer, Shiva, who is not here today. As I said, Microsoft, thank you very much for sponsoring the very wonderful for today event. And this is the first of many, I would say, that we will be having today. And we are also, like the founder of this group, Yongkang, he is CNCF ambassador, and we are also being sponsored by CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation. We also have our main sponsor at Google, where we usually do our events as well. Cloud is also one of our sponsors who Cloud is for a long time, they do as well every time to conduct such meetup and events. So our mission, we are very passionate about Kubernetes technology, and our mission is to accelerate Kubernetes adoption. We are learning from each other, and we want to share that learning with everyone. What's today? Azure Kubernetes service, the big picture by our very own Mr. Habeeb Husain Mohamed, business program manager from Microsoft. I would like to call Habeeb on the podium and take over. Habeeb.
Pretty guy, you need to keep evolving yourself, if not you're stuck. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? And right in time, I was working for VM at the time. So they came up with something called Tanzu Portfolio. I'm sure you might have heard of it. And that's when I started my Kubernetes journey. And what a journey it was, believe me. Now, we all know how containers came into existence. Now, whenever we talk about containers, 4 terms is what I want you all to do. I mean, I'm sure you know this. Abstract, pool, share, consolidate. Isn't that what containers do? Abstract, pool, share, consolidate. What are we abstracting? Operating system. What are we sharing? The resources from the operating system to the containers. What are we pooling? The containers themselves. What are we consolidating? The packages, which are your containers. So this is what we learned with containers. Now, Docker's made life easy for developers on how to create containers. Whenever people talk about Dockers, again, 3 terms come into play. Build, ship, run. Isn't that what we do? So we build the containers, we ship it to a repository. It can be Docker Hub, it can be Azure Container Registry, or it can be open source projects like Habeeb, where we can secure those images. And then we run it wherever we want. Now, the main reason why container kicked off is because of this ultra portability. What do you mean by ultra portable? Think about it. Even today, most of the banks in Singapore have on-premise infrastructure, which means they are still running virtual machines, isn't it? We have friends from UOB, Citibank, DBS here. So, can I move my virtual machine from VMware vSphere to Hyper-V without a tool? Very no way to get this. That's what we say, right? No, we cannot. We need some kind of control. Can I move it from Azure to GCP? No, I can't do that. With containers, the life became easy. As long as the container host is same, hey, no problem. Just push it, pull it. That's what we did. So containers made life easy. But as and when the containers started growing, so did the challenges. But as the containers started growing, so did the challenges. I'm like, who's nothing like me? Okay. So yeah, we were talking about the challenges, right? So whether it is with respect to scalability, whether it is with respect to operations management, whether it is with respect to upgradation. So we wanted to get out of it. We want somebody to babysit our containers. So that's the term which I generally use, babysit. That's exactly what Kubernetes does, right? So it creates an orchestration layer. That's why we call it a COE, Container Orchestration Engine. What does it do? It makes your life easy by babysitting your containers. What do you mean by babysitting? Okay, I'll help you deploy. I'll help you maintain its resiliency. I'll help you upgrade it. I'll help you scale it. So it says, I'm going to do all of that for you just through declarative approach, which is where we're talking about your YAML files, your JSON files coming into play. Everybody good so far? I don't know if that's fixed. So then what is cloud? Where is cloud coming into picture? Kubernetes is doing everything for me and it is making my life easy. Where is Azure fitting in with the case? So that's where I always say cloud is to high complexity. So what complexity? If I ask you to create a Kubernetes cluster, you'll ask me 3 questions. Hey, where do you want me to create it? How do you want me to create it? What do you do? I mean, what kind of application do you want and what kind of users you need? So where, how, what? I don't want this. So let's remove the first 2 questions from the picture. That's where Azure kicks in. So I thought I'll give you the slides, but I think I don't have that much time. So what I'm going to do is I'm straight away going to jump into the portal, which is like Popup for IT guys. How do I access this? www.portal.azure.com. This is the first time that you're seeing. Create an account. That's free. You get a $200 credit and get something called a free subscription. $200 credit is only for 30 days. 12 months, you will get all the services free. So let's say you have created your account and this is what you will see on screen. How do I start my journey with AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service? Before I tell you about that, let me just run into why AKS. Now in Kubernetes architecture, we all know there is master, there is worker. Master, what are the 4 components is? Can somebody refresh my knowledge? What are the 4 components in master? Don't tell me, you know it. Yeah, come on. Now you can tell. I don't know Microsoft. Scheduler, variable, controller, and CV. Isn't that? Yeah. You're a developer, you're always talking to me. You write YAML files, you send it to me. And I'm the guy who's going to talk to you behind the screen and work what you want. So this is like a brain. Whatever I do, I have to update something. Who's that? It's CV. Keep updating it CV. Scheduler, just monitoring the API server. What do you want? Okay, this is the component that requires. So everybody has their own role. So that's how master mode. Worker, you have kubelet, proxy, form. And here is another container for what we call it as containers to help you on your various operations. I'm not getting into that because of the time constraint. So we'll come back to my training next video and learn more. So step one, what did I say? Go to Azure.com. Step two, search Kubernetes services. I'm just showing you how easy it is to deploy. Step three, just say create Kubernetes cluster. Then subscription. What is a subscription? It's your logical boundary for your resources. It's mainly for billing purposes. Remember, I told you when you create your account, you get a free subscription. Use that. You get a $200 credit anyways, right? Resource group. What is this resource group? This resource group is a logical folder. Any resource that share a common life cycle can be hosted here. Example, if I talk about a banking application, you will have a front end. Before a front end, you'll have a load balancer. Before load balancer, you'll have a firewall. Then you have some kind of logic. Then you have a backend. So all these components I can put together. I can call this as banking application resource group. So tomorrow I want to delete it, I just delete the resource group. Poof, everything gone. So resource group is just a logical container to host any resource of your Azure. So it's going to ask you first subscription, second resource group. Give a resource group. Third thing, it is asking you, hey bro, what's your reason for creating this cluster? Is it for testing and development, which means you want to learn something about it? Or is it for production environments? It's production, but you want to save money. It's production, money is not a matter. So depending upon what you want, you select. For now, let's go with the dev test model. And remember, the control plane is hidden, which means you don't have to worry about master. So whatever size that you see here, it is for your worker. Okay. And the main thing which I want to show you is this KubeNet. This is really, really important. How am I going to establish networking for my containers in Azure? There are two ways. Either go with KubeNet or go with Azure CNI. I can integrate third party as well if I want to. I'm not getting into that part now. Let's go with the default ones which you see on screen. KubeNet. Let's go with that. So I'm just saying, hey, this is just for learning purposes. I'll go dev test. Then it is asking me, what name do you want to give? I say AKS demo -003 because I have 001, 002 already. In any cloud, the first thing you need to understand is the term geography. The second term is region. The third term is availability zone. The fourth term is data center. No matter whether it is AWS, Azure, GCP, IBM, no matter what. Geography, example, India. Region, example, Chennai. Availability zone, data center in, I don't know the area. Okay, let's say Bangalore and JP Nagar. Somewhere, like Jurong and Singapore. And then data center is a place where you want to host your resource itself. So it is basically asking me which region. Thumb rule, always keep your resource closer to your user. Simple. So as of now, let's say I'm targeting my clients who are based in US. I'll go with US region. Availability zone is for infrastructure redundancy. Hey, what if a data center goes off? God forbid, there is an earthquake. So I don't want to lose all my data. So availability zones help you offer that availability options. Kubernetes version, AKS pricing. I'll go with the free one. Free one, you don't have to pay a single penny for your control planes. And for the data plane, which is your worker nodes, you have to pay. And if I'm not wrong, it is 10 cents per hour. If it is standard, 60 cents per hour if it is premium. So we have two plans there. Then we go down. So it's asking me which version of Kubernetes you want to go with. I'm going to go with the default, major, minor, patch. We all know that XY0. Then we are talking about how do you want to enable, patch. I'm saying go with the default again. Authentication, authorization. Authentication means identification. Authorization means permission definition. So how do you want to do that? Do you want Kubernetes to do it? Or Azure has its own IDP, identity provider, which is where Azure Active Directory comes into play. So if you want to do that, just scroll down, select that option. I'm just going with the default. Then the most important concept here. When we talk about your worker nodes, we deploy two things. One, as you see, agent pool. What is this agent pool? All the system-related pods. Example, core DNS. Example, metric server. Example, your connection tunnel. Example, your OMS agent. All these are system-related stuff. This must be deployed. You can't skip this. So it is asking you, okay, you're going to deploy the agent node pool. How many machines do you want? I'm going with the default configuration, minimum of 2. No, I just want 1, maybe to save money. So I can just change it to minimum node count 1 and 5. Now this is the worker node, right? What is the responsibility of worker node? To host your pods. So the question is, how many pods do you want? Recommendation is 110. Maximum is 250, but you can play around with the numbers. Again, as per your requirement, you define it. Then we are talking about, do you want to enable public IP address for this guy? Do you want to go with tags, which are labels? Do you want to go with taints, which are like restrictions to make sure that this pod runs on a particular schedule, particular node kind of stuff? I'm just going to go update here. Then I'm going to go networking. So basically, it's asking me, you know what? You have a control plane which is managed by Microsoft. You are dealing with your data plane, which is your worker. How do you want to establish that communication? By default, this communication is public. Over the internet can establish. But do you want restriction, which will make it private? No public access? Check that box. So even that's available to you. I know I'm running. Generally, I don't talk this fast because I want to show you more in 25 minutes. I'm just running through this. Then, if you make public, but if you don't want everybody to access it, but you want to specify only certain IP addresses can access it, second checkbox. Then we are talking about bring your own virtual network. There's a concept of VNet, which means, let's say, Habeeb, Ram, and Sunil are 3 friends who are accessing Azure. I don't want to share or show my resources to them. What is the first thing we do? We create isolated environments. So the term VNet is just an isolated network in Azure. So that when you post your resources, they are not exposed to others. So it is asking, if you have your own VNet, you can use it. If you want to create one, let me do that. So I'm going to go with the default. So you create for me. Then it is asking me, hey, how do you want to maintain governance? Governance is all about some kind of control on the resources that you deploy. Do you want to give access to everybody, or do you want to apply some restrictions? I'm going with the default option, which is Calico here. Then we are talking about integrations, which means, hey, do you want to enable monitoring? Do you want to get your repository? Do you want to go with other metric server deployments? I'm not going any of that because I just need a simple, plain Kubernetes cluster. That's it. Now you can start the demo. It will approximately take 2 to 3 minutes for you to deploy. Done deal. So what I want you to show is, once the Kubernetes cluster is deployed, what is happening behind the screen? We will look into that first. Then we will deploy an application. Then we will connect an application. Then we will see how this application access is working, if time permits, which is like a little deep dive on the networking front. So I'm going to hit the create button. So while this is working, anyone who has worked on Azure platform, like creating virtual machines, super. When you create virtual machine, what is most important? What does it ask?
Basically, the resource group.
Bingo. Resource group is done. Subscription done. Image. Network. In network, what does it ask? What is your VNet? What is your subnet? Do you want to configure a network security group? Do you want a public IP address? Do you want to delete this IP when the VM is deleted? All these kind of questions come into play. Why am I asking this question? Because that's what I want to show you. While this deployment is in progress, let me go to my whiteboard here quickly for you. I came prepared. It's too much content, but take it slow. The black line that you see is your isolated environment. Remember, whenever you want to deploy a resource, you have to create a VNet. VNet is your private network in the public cloud. So when you are creating a VNet, it will ask you for a CIDR value. The smallest that we support is /29. The biggest that we support is /2. What is this /29 /2? This is 16. /16, you get about 65,000 IP addresses. With /24, you get about 256 IP addresses. So depending upon your requirement, you create the slash. I created /12, which gives me about 100,000 IP addresses, which means I'm good to go. Then it is one big network, which means one broadcast domain. We divide that big network into smaller networks. How do we do that? We create subnets. That's where you see the blue line. What is the range? Again, while creating the subnet, it will ask you what's the CIDR value. So 10.224.0.0.16. Remember, while deploying the cluster, it asked me, how many nodes do you want? I said 1, which means 1 box should get created. 1 virtual machine scale set will get created, which is this black box. This is the node which gets deployed. Now, when it is getting deployed, it has to have an Ethernet card, which means virtual network, which means it has to connect to the network. That's where it will connect to the subnet, which gets created while deploying. I'll show it to you practically once the cluster is ready. Pretty clear so far? VNet, subnet, node, node IP. Good. Now, what does AKS do? AKS creates something called overlay network for you. It automatically creates a CIDR for your pods. That's where the green guy comes into picture. It is always same. No matter how many AKS clusters you deploy, the range is same across AKS clusters because this is the default value. Your responsibility is make sure you don't use this CIDR in your on-premise or in other networks so that there is no overlap. That's what I've written there. 10.244.0.0.16, no overlap. That's the first point. Now, if you remember, what are we getting in agent node? I said all the system-centric pods, core DNS, metric server, OMS agent, connectivity tunnel, all that, where do they reside? In this node. If I create another node pool, which is for my application related pods will sit here. So what happens here is the node uses the local, what do we call it, local IP, and then assign itself a CIDR value from that overlay network. This is all automated. You don't have to worry about this. All this is done by AKS at the behind the screens. So if you see here, your black diagram in your black box receives 10.244.0.0/24. Then your pods receive IP addresses as well, right? This IP address comes from the overlay network. So if you see here, my overlay network is for my pods, point number 1. My overlay network should not be overlapping with other networks, point number 2. Overlay network is always inside the cluster. This network details are not exposed to outside, point number 3. Everybody good so far? Now the question is, if this guy wants to talk to this guy, how is that communication going to work? That's where we rely on your Linux namespace networking. We have the bridging component which establishes the communication within pods. But across pods, we have to rely on because it's a different node altogether, which means different CIDR, different network, which means I have to rely on a network router. So that's where your AKS already creates a user-defined route. What is user-defined route? A custom route. It's like system route. See here? The route is not populating fully. So if I scroll right, you will see the route saying that, hey, if you check this out, it's saying, if you want to reach out to this network, go to this IP. What is this IP? Your VNet, physical IP address. If you want to go to this network, you go to this IP because I only have 2 nodes. So you see how AKS is already doing all this stuff for you. So let's quickly check if that's deployed. See here, the deployment is complete. I'll just say go to resource. Then I'll go to workloads. Then I'll go to pods. Remember, we talked about all those system-centric pods which are going to get deployed in your agent node pool. So let it load. See here, core DNS, the connection tunnel. Then we have your Calico, which is for network security policies, metric server. So all these are your core stuff, right? Now let's take a step back. Home. Let's go to resource groups. If you see here, there is a resource group called MC 14 September AKS demo 003. What is this resource group? I didn't create it. I just selected 14 September, but this one was auto-created. So all the infrastructure related components will get stored here. What are the infrastructure components? Let's look into it. I have a VM. Remember the node which we talked about, which gets created and that gets an IP assigned? That's this VM, virtual machine scale set. And then I have a network security group. What is network security group? It's your ACL, access control list. Decides whether to allow the traffic or block the traffic. Then I have route table. Remember, we just talked about the route table. Basically, your overlay network should use your VNet IP addresses in order to establish communication with the other ports. So that's where the NATing and that's where the routing must happen. So it's already configured for you. And then it says, I'm going to create a network for you. And then here it's talking about managed identity. What is managed identity? We need to take advantage of cloud resources. Whether it is a keyboard, which is to keep your secrets, whether it is a load balancer, which is to make use of with your services, right? Or ingress controller. So there are multiple services which I can use. In order to use a service by another resource within Azure, you need a managed identity. So that's what it is. And then we are talking about public IP address and a Kubernetes load balancer. All these components are getting deployed. If I go to 14th September, what do I have? I should see AKS demo 003 and a rule for monitoring for 003. That's it. So you'll get two resource groups. One for your cluster, one the infrastructure components of your cluster. Now let's take a step back and let's validate whatever we saw on the whiteboard with respect to networking. Step one, what did we say? We should have one VNet. So I'm going home, virtual networks. Do we have AKS VNet 003? Yep. Check out the address space. 10.224.00/12. Isn't that what I drew? /12. Good. Then we said we should have one subnet. Do we have a subnet? /16. Done deal. Then what should we have? Node. Connected devices. Who's connected? See here? Agent pool node. Done. So far so good. Now the point here is, where is that side? You said something is getting created automatically, overlay network. Where is it? So I'll just show that and I'll take your lead. So hold on. There was that. Okay, we go back here. Home. AKS 003. Networking. What side of value? This I didn't create, right? It never asked me also while creation. This is the overlay network that I was talking about. Thank you so much for your time, but there's so much to discuss with Kubernetes with AKS. Inshallah. Thank you guys. Good one.
Thank you, Habeeb. Just before you go, there is one question from the online participant. So let's see if we could answer it. So the question is, could we get some example or a list of prompts example to facilitate DevOps and Kubernetes management from the panel? Because the person is interested in deploying cloud infra for personal projects. Any guidance?
I mean, there are multiple ways to do it. I would say there is no one right answer to implement it. The best part with AKS is everything is available to you from your portal itself. For example, in earlier days, when you have a standard Kubernetes cluster, if you need monitoring, we used to rely on other solutions like Prometheus, for example. I don't have to do that. So just get your hands dirty with Portal. Everything can be done from this single screen. Okay, there's so much to AKS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody in the audience who have some questions? He can take probably one or two questions. Thank you. Yeah.
So my name is Mohamed. I'm fresh graduate from the Bandung Technology from Indonesia. So I want to ask you about the AKS, the master node itself. So you're talking about the master node. So without master node, the worker nodes can be run on production, right? So I want to ask you about what's the life cycle for the master node itself. So if you are going to use Flip here and there's something else happen on the master, and the production still running on the business as well. So that's my question. Thank you.
That's a very good question. What did I start with? Cloud is to hide complexity. Why do you want to take complex on your shoulder? Availability of master nodes is taken care by Microsoft. You will not know what's the size of your master node as well, because that's what cloud services are. Right? Platform as a service means what? I will take care of the infrastructure. You don't ask me a question. So the complexity is hidden. So high availability for your workload is again controlled by you. You tell me when you're deploying your application through deployments, how many applications you want, isn't it? So the sizing, the availability is automatically taken care for the control plane by Microsoft. That's guaranteed. Remember, that's where I selected the free one. You saw it, I selected it. You saw production. Production premium. You show me the money, we give you more profits. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Thank you, Habeeb. I believe we are running out of time, but yeah, Habeeb is here. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to him and discuss your queries. They would be more than happy to help you. And let's move on to our next speaker. And again, we have Nilesh, who is MVP for Azure and Container, who will be sharing his knowledge on Kubernetes and KEDA implementation. Nilesh?
I think you can go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you, Nilesh. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. So while we are setting up the technical side of things, just a show of hands, how many of you are using Kubernetes or you have used Kubernetes? Okay, good. How many of you were present at my last talk which I did at the Google office? Dapper. Okay.
Where's the link?
So I'll be referring some of the content from the Dapper talk. Talking more about the KEDA. We will have some references to that. So in case you don't know about Dapper or you want to learn more about Dapper, this talk is also recorded from the previous session. I suggest you have a look at that to have better understanding of what Dapper is capable of doing. So this session is about how we can use autoscale. Now, one of the benefits of using cloud is making good use of resources. We don't have to over provision things. We provision them only when they are required. And there is one project which is called Kubernetes-based event-driven autoscaling or KEDA, which helps us to autoscale our Kubernetes-based applications based on external events. Now, those who are using Kubernetes, how do you scale in your current setup? What's your scaling mechanism or scaling approach? If you have to scale, let's say your deployments or pod, autoscale, HBA, horizontal pod autoscaler. Okay. Anybody using anything else? Okay. What is the requirement for horizontal pod autoscaler? How does it scale?
Metrics packet utilization.
Okay. Time. Is it? Yeah. So it's basically looking at the metrics or things which are available within the Kubernetes cluster. But what if you want to scale based on something which is not part of your Kubernetes cluster? Let's say you have a messaging infrastructure. The example that I'm going to show is RabbitMQ. And you want to scale your pods depending on number of messages which are there to be processed in your queue. That is something which is external to Kubernetes cluster. And that is where KEDA comes in. It looks at things which are not in Kubernetes cluster and allows you to scale your application based on things external to Kubernetes. We're still having some problem?
No.
Okay, so let's get started.
This one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, I think yeah.
I'm in Microsoft Office. I should be using it.
I know.
Sorry, that was just. I don't have any affinity to it, but I don't get sponsored by Azure Microsoft for saying this. Okay, while they're getting my name is Nilesh, you can see it mostly. I was born and brought up in Goa. How many of you know about Goa? This is like the fun part I like to do a couple of minutes. Okay, what do you think of Goa when you hear the term Goa? Fun, party, yeah, that's the impression which Bollywood movies gives. People think that almost 90% of the Goans they walk like with half pants, floral shirts with a hat on their head. They start their mornings with beer or some drink. Unfortunately, that's not. You also find people like me who work in IT and we are not always at the beach. Don't go by the impression that Bollywood movies show. Goa has a distinct culture, which is quite different from the rest of India. Goa was a Portuguese colony. It's not a British colony. And in fact, Portuguese ruled Goa 14 years even after the British left India. So when you go to Goa, you find a difference in people, the food, the buildings, architecture. So if you happen to go to India anytime, I suggest you visit Goa. It's a very nice place known for its beaches, churches, temples, and not just like what Bollywood movie shows that it is. So that's Dapper. Like when we build microservices, we want to use or we have a need to have these cross-cutting kind of things. We need service-to-service communication. We need things like state management. If you're working with messaging, then you need something for publisher and subscriber of some mechanism. Serverless, we have resource binding and observability, secrets, configuration, distributed logging. All these are features provided by Dapper. So again, I suggest that you go back and watch the previous video, or you can watch my YouTube channel where I explain this in much more detail. For today's talk, we'll be going through this process where I have a container registry where the images are, and then we have Azure Kubernetes or AKS cluster created. We have a TechTalks producer deployed. We have TechTalks consumer also deployed. And this is the part which we do the autoscale based on the number of messages that are there in our RabbitMQ. So this will happen through Dapper. Dapper will allow us, the producers and consumer, to talk to RabbitMQ, and the scaling part would be handled by KEDA. So I'll switch over to code and let's see how we can scale this. I ran this command KGPO, which is like a KDS, get pods, and you can see that I have created some of these pods in 11 hours. This morning, I created this cluster, and I've deployed some of these services that are required for my application in the interest of time. Let's start by looking at what are the things which are required for running this. And since you guys are already experienced, do you want me to show how manual scaling happens, or I assume that you know and you trust me that it works fine? Okay. So if you don't know how manual scaling happens, the slide number 7 is how we do it. We run the kubectl scale command. Here we are trying to scale the deployment, and whatever is my current number of replicas, I'm changing it to 5. So if I go back and look at how many replicas of my producer are running, I have 3 replicas running here. So if I run that command, this could be changed to 5. And I can same way reduce it down to 3 or 2, whatever I want. So let's look at some of these things that are configured. On the Azure Kubernetes service, AKS, there is native integration for both the Dapper as well as KEDA. But if you don't have Azure Kubernetes service and you want to install KEDA yourself on your cluster, you can go to the KEDA.sh site and you can look at what are the different ways in which KEDA can be deployed. So there is support for health chart, that is operators, or you have the plain vanilla YAML. You can use any of these approach. I've used the native integration with Azure where I just pass a flag and that enables me to have the KEDA installed on my Kubernetes cluster. So in this script, I use this script and I run this AZHS create command by passing all these command line flags. And here you see the last line 54 enable KEDA. With this, it installs all the things that are required on my AKS cluster for running KEDA. And when I install that, if I run this kubectl get CRD for getting the custom resource definitions, you will see some items which have KEDA.sh in the end. So you have the scaled object, there is scaled job, there is the trigger authentication. So these are the custom objects which KEDA creates on our Kubernetes cluster. And then we use these objects to configure KEDA for our application. So when I start using KEDA, or when I want to use KEDA, let's look at some of the configuration that I need to do. So here I have my producer, which is referring to the Azure Container Registry ACR instance, and I have different tags for these images. As I was saying earlier, I'm using polyglot programming model, and the same image, the same code I've written in .NET, Java, Go, and this is published to both the Container Registry as well as the Docker Hub Public Container Registry. You can switch between those. In this example, I'm using the .NET version, and if we go to a consumer, the consumer that I have is using the Go. So the producer is .NET and the consumer is Go image here. And this is being pulled from public Docker registry. So you can use any approach. Now coming to KEDA, right? We need a configuration for KEDA so that KEDA can scale our application. Using the custom object, the scaled object that I was showing as part of KEDA installation, I'm creating a custom object of type scaled object here, and I'm specifying some metadata. Now, in this case, I want to scale my deployment, which is named as RabbitMQ consumer deployment. That is that Go version of the code. And I specify some metadata related to RabbitMQ. So the things that I specify here is, first thing is the trigger, which is of type RabbitMQ. And the queue that I'll be triggering, or the queue that I'll be monitoring in this case, is named as consumer. The queue length here is 5 and protocol is MQ. Now this configuration will vary based on the type of scaler that you want to use. If you switch from RabbitMQ to Kafka, these parameters would change. They would be Kafka specific. If you want to use, let's say, a database instead of messaging, these parameters would be database specific. So this metadata tells KEDA what to look at. So it's basically looking at this queue, which is in RabbitMQ, and what is the size here. So as long as there are 5 messages to be processed, KEDA will automatically scale. And the range that I give for scaling is, I want minimum replicas to be 0 and maximum as 30. So that is the range within which it will scale this particular deployment, which is RabbitMQ consumer deployment. Any questions so far before I move on?
So I want to ask about the KEDA part. So we don't have to use the depper to use the auto scaling, right?
Not required.
Not required.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So if you look at some of my older videos on YouTube, right, before I started integrating Dapper, I've done multiple talks where it is purely based on KEDA without using Dapper. Any other question? Yes.
You can start as you mentioned about the event-driven architecture.
Yes.
So when we are talking about the queues here, where does it stand?
You mean where the queue comes in?
Exactly. We are talking about the event-driven.
Yes.
We are actually reading the trigger while event is actually queue, and you are actually using the queue, then that's fine.
Yes.
I didn't get it. How did you configure?
So the producer will produce the message and it will be sent onto the queue, right? And what this queue length means is this is the trigger based on which KEDA has to scale. So 5, I will put this number lower for the demo purpose, but usually you will have slightly higher number here. And same thing for pooling interval. It is like looking at this queue every 1 minute, 60 seconds. But in a production like scenario, this queue length may be like 200 or 500, and you would have intervals slightly longer. And within that interval, it will keep checking how many messages are pending, and it will decide does the current deployment enough to support that processing. If not, it will scale in that range, whatever range I specify.
In other words, KEDA is polling and not receiving an event.
Yes. It's simply polling within that time interval.
There is like two ways, like you can auto scale the cluster also and inside the cluster. So it does both. Yeah.
Auto scaling would be the after effect. The cluster autoscaler, if you enable it, and let's say KEDA tries to scale here, and your cluster doesn't have enough resources, then the cluster autoscaler will come into. If there are enough resources available, scaling would happen on the same cluster without adding additional nodes.
You have to define here which should use cluster autoscaler and the.
No, cluster autoscaler is separate. Cluster autoscaler is part of your Kubernetes infrastructure. Yes.
Just curious, for some reason, if the KEDA pod gets like restarted or something, what happens? I mean, what is the kind of scenario we can handle?
It is not doing anything in terms of state management for you. It is still relying on your actual deployment. So your actual application deployment, which is doing the processing of your messages, that should handle the messages gracefully. If, let's say that.
For example, I mean, I have the polling interval of 60 seconds, which is like something is dependent on up to this, but the communication is open in between. And what's supposed to receive to the next one is not yet received. So in this case, it's something better to handle it in application, or we have something here to configure.
There is nothing here to configure. KEDA will just rely on your existing applications pod itself. Yes.
So how do we do the capacity planning? For example, I put the eventID and the worker is like pulling the maximum of 100 message each fall. So how do we do the capacity planning? For example, it needs to have some kind of maximum capacity, maximum polling.
That's part of your normal capacity planning. So that is not something which KEDA can tell. That is based on your own requirement. Whether you need 30 pods or you need 50 pods, 1,000 pods, that's your own application's requirement and the batch size. Whether it should pick, let's say, 50, 100, or 150 messages, it's your configuration.
Can we do the auto-scaling part using horizontal autoscaler and KEDA? Yeah.
Technically, yes. I'm just given 5 minutes, so I think I will talk to you offline and we can continue because I want to show the demo. Yeah. Okay, so let's see a demo in action. So with this, I have configured the number of messages and the interval, right? Using one Visual Studio Code extension here, which is HTTP. What is it called? REST client. Anybody has used the REST client? It allows you to make the REST calls. So I have this call. Let's say I have 10,000 messages to publish, and I go onto my UI. I have the RabbitMQ UI here, which is looking at that particular TechTalks consumer TechTalks queue. So let's go and publish these 10,000 messages. And right now you see that there is only one consumer, and it's picking 150 messages. So the batch size for this consumer is 150. Each consumer is picking 150 messages for processing. And the current state is like 4 consumers are running. So you see it was 600 untracked messages, but it went to 7. Because of that, again, 1 minute, it realizes there is not enough pods to process this. So it has added additional consumer 8, and then it will go into 16. Then it will try to scale even up to that 30. So this configuration, how many messages to be processed, that comes from Dapper configuration that I'm using, which is a pub subtype, and you see the value here as 150. I can change this, and again, without changing any line of code in the application, I can deploy this and it will take effect whatever is the new value. So you can see that all the messages have been picked and we have all the 30 consumers. It will not go beyond 30 because our upper limit is 30. And if you wait for a couple of minutes, you will also see the reverse side of it where all these messages are processed. It will go from 30 all the way down to 0. Okay. So how does KEDA do this? When we install KEDA, it looks at two major things. One, which is that scaled object where we configure what is the deployment we should be looking at, and we provide that metadata. The other thing it looks at is this external event source. In our case, that was RabbitMQ. And behind the scenes, it still uses horizontal pod autoscale. So if I run kubectl get HPA, right, you will see that it is using horizontal pod autoscaler behind the scene to autoscale this particular deployment. So that was our configuration for the scaled object. What does KEDA has to offer in terms of feature? So as we saw, it is event-driven. It makes auto-scaling very simple. As of this morning, when I checked, there were, I think, 62 out-of-box autoscalers. We just looked at RabbitMQ, but many of the commonly used applications, frameworks, they are available as part of these out-of-box autoscalers. It supports multiple types. We looked at deployment. It supports jobs and as well as scaling on top of stateful sets as well. It is vendor agnostic, and we can deploy KEDA anywhere. I think the minimum requirement for Kubernetes is 1.16. As long as your Kubernetes cluster is 1.16 version or higher, you can deploy KEDA on that. And there is also support for Azure functions if you are interested in specifically Azure and serverless. So if you head over to the scalers part in the docs, you will see there is ActiveMQ, there is Kafka, Pulsar, Azure Monitor, pipelines, all this that is in the picture or the screenshot. So not just the messaging, it also supports things like cloud provider related services. So a quick summary, we looked at how to loosely coupled and make the application highly portable by using something like Dapper. And then KEDA provides, or AKS provides native integrations for both Dapper and KEDA. KEDA helps us based on external metrics to scale. Dapper, I would suggest if you are doing microservices development, give it a try. In my experience, it's quite a handy project to work with. And that's pretty much what I have to show. Any other question? For your reference, you can look at these links. I've published this to SlideShare and Speaker Deck. I also did a collaboration with one of the guy in Australia. He's a Microsoft employee, George. And I showed how to deploy Dapper on Azure Container. We looked at Kubernetes here at AKS, but Dapper and KEDA can also work with the serverless offering from Microsoft, which is Azure Container Apps. And this particular video is talking about that. And I also have a series running on my YouTube channel for building cloud native applications. I'm open to contributions. So if anybody wants to contribute, feel free to contribute to that. And that is where you will find the whole source code as well as the slides. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Any last question or couple of questions while Ritesh sets up things? Yes, sir.
Question. Sorry, my name is Calvin. I have a question. So, if let's say in my company we have a lot of microservices, and at the start we don't have the even right sizing for each services. So, what would you recommend to start? Do we just how do you start right sizing everything? And is there a default auto scaling?
I would suggest you need to monitor when you have microservices. Right? You will have to monitor them closely. And just yesterday, I gave a talk in Java user group about observability. So when you want to do right sizing, you should observe your microservices closely and see how the metrics are behaving, how much your resources are getting used, whatever resources you have specified, are they enough or not enough? So you can't have one formula for everything. It depends on what is the kind of workload you are running. Is it predictable or you have a burstable workload? So based on these kind of factors, your sizing would differ.
So if there is no one easy way to start, like right sizing everything or auto scaling everything.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
So there is also one more file called output.tf which I've created. Now what output.tf, now if you have a huge configuration that you are going to do, okay, and you want output of that resources for future reference, then you can go and create output.tf and you can create a resource output resources. Where I'm doing is I'm creating a file called kubeconfig, which depends on, means like first the cluster has to be created, depends on. So I'm giving a depends on wherein I'm putting a dependency on this resource that first cluster has to be created. After its creation, it should create a file named kubeconfig and it should have all the configuration raw. So if I go to kubeconfig, I get this JSON file with client certificate, client key, token. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this file to connect to my cluster. Okay, it's done. This.
So my question would be, okay, my name is Ahmad, I'm from Indonesia. My question would be, how do we scale this Terraform? How is we can implement this Terraform at a scale like at a team? So how button GitOps and stuff to make these things not being applied by local?
Yeah. So as I said, one option is you can use GitHub Actions, and you can give access to your teams to that GitHub repo. From there, GitHub Action will will do the job where the TF file will be stored. Or you can also give remote -state file, and you can configure a remote state file in Azure storage, okay, in one of the bucket. And when anyone, let's say you are doing any changes, I'm doing any changes, then each of us, we are going to refer the same file. So when I do any changes and commit any changes, it will go and check the state file, what is the latest. So it's not going to look locally, it's going to go to the central location wherever I have kept it, a remote location, and from there. So when you have larger team, this is not what you do. So this is you do for yourself to understand what it is, but this is not what you do when. And also if you can use Terraform Cloud. So Terraform Cloud manages this thing very easily. It has all those options. So we have to, now we changed it to 2. I think we should have, we have 2 of 2. Okay, now go back to instruction. Okay, now we have applied, we have a Terraform, we have a AKS. Now let's run this command and see a config. So you see, I have two nodes ready. Now what I will do, I will just deploy a sample application. Now, if you see, kubectl apply. Now this hello world.yaml file resides in my YAML folder here. Okay. It's nothing, it's just simple, wherein it will deploy a hello Kubernetes app. Enter. Okay. Hold on.
Provide credentials.
No, it should take it because
In your command line, you didn't set it default.
Yeah, I can find it. The or you can copy config part of the cost config. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't set it default.
yes.
Unless you want to override config.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You said it.
You can use that. You can use the black
Then I get config.
like that config.
Hold on, now I'm confused.
These steps for us.
I think I have that here.
It's presenting, so attention.
Oh,
You try your
no need to worry. I have that. Don't worry. Yes. Okay. Okay, it's created. Sorry, my mistake. Okay. Now we go and we publish this. Sorry?
you need to change the
Yeah, I know. Do one thing. Come. Let me do. No, I know there was a goof up, but that's fine. Let's continue. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Sorry?
No. Sorry. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you, please. So my simple application is running and now we can access it. Okay, so if you want, there are still more steps wherein you can configure the service load balancer, L4 load balancer, and then You can also just there is, if you go to main.tf, you remove this hash and save it and run it. So what it will do, it will via Terraform itself, it will install the Nginx controller. After Nginx controller, you run this ingress.yaml deployment, and that will give you, it will install the default Nginx service controller, and then you can use the public IP that you will get when you do kubectl get no, it's it would be kubectl get svc, okay, services, and from there you can see, and kubectl describe HTTP routing. So you can do kubectl help, you will find that. And from there you take the public IP, you paste it, and you will see that it will resolve to the application that you have deployed on your Azure AKS. So this can be used for Kubernetes. It can be used for any other cloud provider. So it's not only pertaining to Azure. Okay, since we are here, and I wanted to show it on how we can do it in Azure AKS. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm open to take it with regards to Terraform. Anybody? For login to Azure. AZ login, AZ set subscription. So when I do AZ login, yeah. I have exported them locally. Environment variable, and then I'm passing them through environment variable. So that actually this is not the best way to do it, but I don't wanted to expose it even here, so I have exported it. But this is not the best way to do it. So better way to do it is either when you configure your GitHub, there is a workflow action. In the workflow action, you give your IDs, or if you are using Terraform Cloud, in Terraform Cloud you set it as a variable vault kind of thing, or you can use HashiCorp Vault or any key vault that you want, and you can store it there. So yeah, this is what I've done, but it's not what you should do in your production. Disclaimer, this is whatever I'm showing you with regards to credential and Terraform state file. It's only for development and for our purpose. If you want to do it at production, there are different things to do it. Take into consideration those security factors as well. Thank you very much. It was nice. Yeah.
Can you repeat your repository? So there's a question on the...
Okay, my repository is here. Can they see?
Okay. Yeah.
It's, and just before going, if you guys want to connect with me, this is my LinkedIn, my contact details. And as I said, I'm also organizer for HashiCorp user group meetup. So you can join this meetup, and you can attend our meetups as well. Just like Kubernetes, we have HashiCorp user group meetup. So you can join them. Thank you very much. And I will hand over to Fazir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ritesh. And I think you guys learned something out of this. So since it's late, so we are going to end the session today for today. So I would like to thank everyone who has joined today, whoever came here and joined online. And I would like to thank Microsoft for